A plus Chapter 1-6. Doubt. Xuangang repeatedly begged for mercy, yet who would really take to heart such a minor character? In the end, he could only leave in defeat. The other members of the staff all wanted to break into applause out of happiness. This Xuangang was a vile character who had just gotten a bit of success recently, yet was arrogant without limits. They all felt that he deserved this kind of ending. When Xiaoying saw Ling Han, Fu Yuansheng, and the others disappear around the corner, she could not help revealing an infatuated expression. A young girl like her naturally did not lack a romantic imagination. However, she knew that there was too big a gulf between Ling Han and herself in terms of status, so she was just fantasizing a bit. Her heart was filled with gratitude, because she had received a personal acknowledgement from Fu Yuansheng. Her position in this Heaven's Medicine Pavilion would be unshakable. For Ling Han, this was only a very small matter, and when he arrived at Fu Yuansheng's study, he had completely put the earlier incident out of his mind. He did not want to waste any time, and so voiced out his intention to borrow some ingredients from Fu Yuansheng. Fu Yuansheng nodded and waved his hand. Of course, him waving his hand did not mean that he was refusing Ling Han's request, but that the medicinal ingredients would be a gift to Ling Han instead of a loan. What a joke! This was a grandmaster alchemist. To be able to supply alchemical ingredients for Ling Han was his honor. What need was there for Ling Han to pay them back? Ling Han did not act modest, and said, "How about this? I will concoct an alchemical pill here, and you all can observe the way I do it." He had decided to enact a specific alchemist skill. This was far from the level of the 3 Fire Guide, but would be indescribably valuable to Fu Yuansheng and the others. Good, good, good. But I would have to ask you to wait for a moment to allow me to call some other people here to observe, if that's all right? Fu Yuansheng asked cautiously. It would be best if there were more alchemists here to observe and benefit from such a great opportunity. They would be able to improve together. Moreover, the more people there were, then the more possible it would be for them to observe clearly that alchemist's skill of Ling Han. Afterwards, they'd be able to confirm and double-check with one another so they would not easily forget any details. Zhu Haixin and Zhang Weishan immediately looked a little guilty. The gazes they directed at Fu Yuansheng were filled with respect, because they had only thought of themselves just now, and had not even taken others into consideration. He truly deserved the name of Grandmaster. He was indeed a person who thought of the bigger picture. Ling Han smiled and said, "You can, but it would not be appropriate for there to be more than 10 people." "I understand." Fu Yuansheng hurriedly excused himself and left. Meanwhile, Ling Han began to converse with Zhu Haixin and Zhang Weishan. Qi Zhantai stood at one side, unable to join in the conversation, obviously looking extremely bored. She was currently engaged in a staring contest with Hun Yu. She saw how Hun Yu was so cute, and so reached forward to pick her up. Yet, because Hun Yu disliked strangers getting too close to her, she immediately bared her small white teeth, revealing a very defensive expression. "If you don't want to be bitten, I'd advise you to move your hand away," Ling Han said to Qi Zhantai when he saw this happen out of the corner of his eyes. "I am in the 2nd layer of element gathering tier. How could she manage to bite me?" Qi Zhantai did not believe his advice and instead extended her hand to reach out for Hun Yu at a faster pace. Hun Yu was enraged. Suddenly she gave a strike of her fingernails in a bite, her movements exceptionally quick. "Ah!" Qi Zhantai hurriedly withdrew her hand, yet there had already appeared a bite mark on her fair, delicate hand. The pain almost caused her to tear up. Ling Han picked Hun Yu up to prevent her from taking advantage and pushing on with her attack. He laughed and said, "Even I have been bitten before. You, at the level of the 2nd layer of element gathering tier, are really not that much." He turned back round and said to Hun Yu, "This is a friend. Don't bite her again." Hun Yu held on to Ling Han's neck, tilted her head and continued to stare at Qi Zhantai, her stare still ferocious. Zhu Haixin and Zhang Weishan could not help but ask about Hun Yu's origins. When they found out the whole story, they were truly amazed and felt that this little girl was indeed extremely fortunate. Even after dropping into a tiger's lair, she had still managed to survive to such an age. While they were talking, Xuanhuan had led 7 people in, all of different ages. The oldest of them looked to be in his 70s, and the youngest was at least in his 40s. All of them had at least 1 silver badge hanging on their chests, and some even had 2. This meant they were all either black-grade low-level or black-grade mid-level alchemists. "This is young Master Han, and we shall observe young Master Han concoct an alchemical pill later," Xuanhuan said. Hearing him say this, all 7 of the newcomers looked extremely surprised. Who were they? They were all black-grade alchemists, and in Rain Country, they could be considered very important people with extremely high social status. If you were talking about concocting alchemical pills, they were naturally the ones who would be doing the teaching. What need was there for them to observe another person concocting pills if the person they would be observing was either Xuanhuan or Wu Songling? That would be fine. As the only 2 black-grade high-level alchemists in Rain Country, these 2 men have naturally won the reverence and respect of all alchemists. But now, Xuanhuan actually wanted them to observe a young man concoct an alchemical pill. How could they accept that? Alchemists, belonging to an extremely rare and extremely important profession, caused everyone in this field to be extremely proud, and the higher their grade, the prouder they were. Immediately, there were a few of the alchemists who looked insulted and angered. But because of Xuanhuan's status, they did not lose their temper. Among them, one of the alchemists in his 40s could not hold himself back and said, "Pavilion Master, you're joking with us, right? You actually want us to observe a little guy concocting an alchemical pill?" He had something else that he had held himself back from saying. "This brat couldn't be your illegitimate son, right? To command so many of us to come here to instruct him?" Xuanhuan looked furious. In his opinion, being able to observe Ling Han in the process of concocting an alchemical pill was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Under normal circumstances, what alchemist would easily allow others to watch him concoct pills? Moreover, Ling Han had even said that he would be enacting an alchemist skill for their observation. If it was not for his determination and desperate desire to develop and advance the field of alchemy in Rain Country, then why else would he have called others here to observe? "He-Lin, apologize to young Master Han," he said immediately in a deep voice. "What?" That alchemist by the name of He-Lin raised a brow, looking extremely disbelieving. "I am a black-grade, low-level alchemist. My status is so high and revered, yet you actually want me to apologize to a young boy like this? Pavilion Master, are you intending to use your public office to avenge private wrongs?" "How dare you?" Xuanhuan shouted instantly. His eyes were wide with rage, and he looked extremely furious. Both Ling Han and Xuanhuan were people he respected very much. "Ha!" He-Lin laughed loudly, with no hint of respect in his expression. He only gave a cold humph and said, "Some things are better left unsaid." He was indeed not afraid of Xuanhuan because his father, He Luoyun, was also a black-grade high-level alchemist. Years ago, He Luoyun and Xuanhuan were already rivals. They would be competing over everything: alchemy, martial arts. The 2 of them even fell in love with the same woman. In the end, He Luoyun won the maiden's heart. And now, He Luoyun already had 1 foot in the ranks of Earth-grade alchemists, and very soon would be able to dominate fully over Xuanhuan. As a result, he naturally thought that Xuanhuan was deliberately beating down on him. Unable to win over his old man, he was actually seeking a feeling of superiority from his son. This was really too shameful. Xuanhuan was actually trembling with fury. His well-meant intentions actually got such a payback. "Get out!" Ling Han said coldly to He-Lin, pointing at the door. "Brat, how dare you actually speak to me this way?" He-Lin was stunned for a moment before becoming enraged. "En!" Both Xuanhuan and Zhang Weishan had stepped out to stand in front of Ling Han, glaring furiously at He-Lin. "2 dogs that don't know what's good for you." He-Lin humphed coldly. "I was intending to leave, even if you don't drive me out. Actually watching a wet-behind-the-ears brat concoct an alchemical pill. Pay! Ha ha ha!" He spat and then gave 3 loud laughs, leaving with long strides.